This week's videos are sponsored by Acorns, the money app that makes it simple and cheap to make small yet significant investments.
Citizens of Reject Nation, I am sitting down today with the one and only SEAN Gunn to finally discuss Maxwell Lord. I think this is the character I've danced around the most the last year because he's the one man we couldn't discuss.
I know. I'm
curious for you, in that same vein, does it feel like a relief to finally acknowledge this in public?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because it was, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to say it, which is that it was leaked that I was playing Maxwell Lord before we were ready to like announce anything. And so the leak was correct. So it was like, we didn't then want to come out and say, no, that's not true, because it was true.
Right.
But we also didn't want to like give credence to the leak. So we just kind of like, let's just not talk about it for a long time.
If anyone asks, we just, it felt like a double negative where it was like this void of a thing.
I know. And it's funny. So like everyone knew I was playing the character, but then we didn't talk about it. And then you see Superman, or by the time the Peacemaker trailer came out, it's like, okay, he's definitely like
our confirmation in video.
Character. And then he gets introduced for like I think literally less than 5 seconds in Superman.
And it's like a turnaround walk away.
What's I keep telling people, like, what's less than a cameo? It's like an intro. You know, it's not even an amuse-bouche. It's like I don't even know how to describe it. But yeah, so I got my few seconds in Superman, and then the world will see me a little bit in Peacemaker.
It feels like the end of a comic when you get that one panel. Like you actually get like, there he is.
Yeah.
Which is very fitting. And I
panel.
love that this feels like you dive in mid-graphic novel. I feel like Superman is like, we're already on issue 2. We get to dive in. The world's established.
Yeah.
And going into Peacemaker, there's this gift of having a season 1 already, but also diving into letting new characters flourish. And I've always loved that Maxwell Lord is so nuanced. Depending on when you're meeting him, whether it's Justice League International, whether it's him as a villain, there's a lot of layers to it. So when you were approached to play him, was there a specific thing that you wanted to add because there's so much versatility in him?
Well, I can tell you that that's what made the character super exciting to me. And I really love the challenge of playing the character, and I really I've enjoyed digging into the psychology and where he could possibly be going. And you're right, he's not he's a billionaire. They're different from us. And so the idea that he's just like a blanket, I've had some people ask me, like, is he a good guy or a bad guy in this universe? And I'm like, I don't really think that that's how you can try to tackle this character. It's like, I don't think that the idea that he is just a good guy with a capital G or a bad guy with a capital B is relevant. He is a human being with motivations and has things that he wants, and there is there's an element of, he's bankrolling the Justice Gang, so there's elements of altruism to what he's doing, but there's also like what kind of person would do that and for what reasons are incredibly interesting to explore.
And I love that he literally spangles out his people like they have like NASCAR jackets effectively. They're branded heroes. And that says a lot about a person of like, who would do that to a human being is saving lives?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's exactly right. That like you can learn more about Maxwell Lord in what he's done than in even how I'm playing him. It's like you can listen to him talk and listen to what he says, and that gives you a piece of the puzzle. But it's almost more interesting to look at like, the mural that he commissioned and the outfits that he's paying for and the space that he rented to do his interviews.
Right.
And all those things to me are almost more interesting than what he actually does, which is really cool.
And I think judging someone by their actions is such a normal thing to do. We don't think to do in movies. I think we're so used to exposition. We're so used to being told what the character is.
Right.
And what I've loved so far about this DCU is it is that nuanced approach to the world is so big, we have to have normal people in it. And I really love that we're entering a world, like I said, in issue 2 of a comic book. If you've got a Green Lantern, that means you also need to have a dude acting like a dude. So that balance I loved about the Daily Planet. I really enjoyed that Ma and Pa Kent felt the most normal they ever have because the world is so extraordinary.
Right.
And to me, Maxwell Lord feels like an interesting eye line into what's coming. We've got Stagg Industries all over the place in both animation and live action. We've got Lord Tech, and obviously we eventually, James has alluded to Wayne being a part of this conglomerate of power set. What I'm curious for you is playing someone that is a billionaire in a world that accepts it, but also knowing that there is a malevolence and benevolence depending on the choice. Is it hard to balance out mapping a whole universe with a character that is so nuanced? Since you don't have a mustache to twirl and you don't have a things are good, there is a lot more of a grayscale. Does that throw off like how you play him depending on the project?
I don't think it throws it off. I think that like I have to, my job as a performer is to clear all of the noise out of my head and remember that this is a real human being and what motivates him and what, here are the resources he has as a billionaire. And Maxwell Lord isn't just a billionaire. He is a super duper ultra. And I will tell you, James and I talked about that. This is a $2 or $3 billion billionaire,
or like no sense of money.
And I'm a Clippers fan. Is this a Steve Ballmer billionaire who has $100 billion?
Yeah,
and is more, and he's more the latter, right? And so like he's an ultra billionaire. How does that affect your psyche? Who does that make you as a like? I get to clear away the noise. Who is this person? What motivates him? Why does he do what he does? And I get to focus on that depending on the project and who he is. And I'm excited to explore that.
I think it's really amazing timing. And I love when art is an act of rebellion. And I really appreciate that. It seems to be a key piece of this puzzle that we're getting, Luthor and Stagg, and it's the most consistent thing we've seen across the properties. Is that something that you wanted to have as kind of a weapon? Like I love when artists get to rebel a bit, and I want to talk about G.I. Robot next because that to me is my favorite. Like cheers to the Tin Man. But is that something that you wanted to do? Is make a statement about like the problems of someone not having a touch on reality, even in an unrealistic world?
Not so much. I mean, I think that that's more the job of the creators, like that's more of a writer's job. As a performer, I'm just supposed to figure out what they're telling me about who this character is, and then understand that and play that. So I'm not trying to point it in any direction. I'm trying to it's fun for me because I'm figuring him out as we go along, even though I have a sense for who he is.
You get to be the clay, not the sculptor.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's really fun. That's really fun to put yourself there.
Yeah.
And last little bit about him, because it's been months of wondering, with him being someone that is willing to clad someone in his name, with him being someone that brands folks as himself, is that something that you wanted to have a backstory of I bet he put fair play on Mr. Terrific. I bet he put, was that a backstory you built about how much control he had over the mural, etc.?
It's all information that tells me who he is. You know what I mean? There's no way that somebody in charge like that wouldn't be aware of what's going on. And we can see it from Peacemaker. We can tell that Maxwell's hands-on with stuff. So the idea that he wouldn't know, that he wouldn't know what the mural looked like, or that he wouldn't know what the uniforms or the outfits look like. There's no way he wouldn't know. There's no way. So yes, that's just information for me about who he is. I don't, again, it's like being the clay and not the sculptor. I don't personally inform any of that stuff, but I'm informed by it.
So the scene we did see in the trailer of him being so hands-on is kind of your equalizer for how much you have the data set of, he's clearly this, so X, Y, Z this.
Yeah. And I like that. One of the things I like about that is that he's also, it humanizes him a little bit because he's really, he has some sort of camaraderie with these characters. He's not just Lex. When we meet Lex in Superman, Lex is definitely a more of a, even though he's surrounded by people, in his people, he's a little bit more of a lone wolf, and
Sure.
that I'm a solo artist here, and everyone else exists for me to bend them to my whim. Whereas I think even in that little scene in Peacemaker, we can see that Maxwell is not quite like that. That he's actually engaging with
He's shoulder to shoulder
with Guy and with Hawkgirl, and that they're like, he may be the boss, but he's engaging with them as colleagues in a way.
And I also feel like that's going to be a key factor of like Lex kidnaps Metamorpho, and in the comics, Stagg Industries creates Metamorpho. So there's corporate espionage, I assume, is coming, and there's some cool elements that I think you're being literally in the painting at the Hall of Justice I thought was interesting, because that shows like you see yourself as among them, not above them, at least to a point.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I won't expand on that too much. I think you're right. I think that I think that we can definitely assume that Maxwell sees himself as a member of the team more than just a benefactor.
Yeah. There was a Cyclops element versus an Xavier. Like it felt like, in the painting, used being side by side. I didn't catch the first time because I was so distracted by the other things, but I thought it was interesting that in the painting, it was you in civilian clothes, them all in their wardrobe, and it was like, that's normal. So I really like those little details that are growing out this tapestry.
Yeah.
Now, I would love to talk about a safer subject, because that's the future, and I'm so glad we can finally confirm it now that there's footage. But G.I. Robot, to me, has become such a beautiful figurehead of rebellion. He's become this character that represents a present day act. And I love that it's a throwback character that has now become a present day icon. When you first started seeing the protests and you first started seeing G.I. Robot be used as a piece of an iconography, what did that feel like as the voice and person behind it?
I love it. I love it so much. As an actor, I feel some sort of kinship with every character that I play. It's part of what I do. I always know that if I don't enjoy it, if I don't find my love for playing the character, it's probably not working. So that's my way in, is how to love them. And it was just so easy for G.I. I love him so much, and I just know, I was saying, like, when people come up to me at conventions who love G.I. Robot, I'm instantly on their side. And he's the hero we need for today. I'm all for it. I'm all for using him as an icon of anti-fascism. And I don't write the character. I don't create him, so I don't want to pretend. I don't want to put more into it than I deserve. But I can say that I'm proud to play him, and I get it. Like if we can't agree that Nazis are bad, we are in rough shape.
Where and when are we?
As a species, Yeah. And so, I'm on board.
It was really beautiful. I think of iconography from different decades and different human struggles. And I think it's really interesting that we keep some of that iconography, like Rosie the Riveter feels timeless, and certain pieces of that time get to reflect today. And something about him being from a bygone era, but now feeling like today's Rosie the Riveter because of the type of conflict we're in and the internal struggle as a country. I love that comic books, which to me have always been a quiet act of rebellion. To me, they're like handing out propaganda that has a narrative, right? In a positive sense, the word propaganda, it's a narrative about morals that you bring home to your home. So when G.I. Robot became that voice, it felt very linear and logical, but I never thought comic books would reach the peak that it has to be this thing. So when you started seeing people dressed as him at cons, and you said you feel like a kinship, you feel like you know what side they're on, have you had anyone tell you anything that either enhanced your perspective or recontextualized something that you had put out there in the role?
Let me tell you what I like most is it's a reminder not to judge people by how they look and how they might behave or whatever. Again, I'm going towards these like conventions that I do, and people come to my table, and you may have the biggest, toughest looking like biker dude who comes up who it's just like, I love this guy. I love, pulling up a photo of G.I. Robot and like I love this character, and I'm like, yeah, man. I didn't know that. Like, I wouldn't have pegged you necessarily for a GI Robot stan, but I it's a reminder that like, oh, there are people out there everywhere. We're kind of all in this together, and like, I don't know. I don't want to. I also look. I don't want to put too much into it. I don't want to like go too
over-aggrandize a affair.
Yes, I don't. But I just like, hey, if there's a character that I'm gonna get behind and stand up for, I love them.
Yeah, if there's a 1-to-1 a rule to have behind a character, I think that GI Robot should be there. Like, oh, a base 0. And speaking of him, I know Creature Commandos season 2 is something that's been announced as going forward, and we had spoilers for the show from a while ago. We had a big change in GI Robot by the time we got to the end. Have you thought of anything that you, and this is you as a performer, not someone knowing anything, is there anything that you really want to convey or do differently, or is there any element of GI Robot 2.0 that you're excited about?
Well, I'm fortunately I don't know anything, so I can't accidentally spoil anything.
Easiest.
I don't know anything yet. Like I'm looking forward to reading a script for season 2. I know we're making one, but I don't know what happens. But I love the idea that maybe GI Robot, as he has evolved, a little bit. In terms of technology, maybe his ideology has evolved a little bit so that it's not just Nazis, but it's a little bit more expansive. In terms of who he doesn't tolerate.
Who's in his eye line? I like that a lot. As he upgrades physically, his brain capacity is like, there's other problems as well.
My God. It's my favorite thing. The mumbling, the GI Robot's like mumbling, like, oh. Is my favorite thing.
The fact that he's like a West, to me, what I love about the character is that he's like an old hyper machismo masculine figurehead that we need to be against what that has become. Like, I really enjoy, like, as someone, I always said I look like a Flash Thompson but feel like Peter Parker. Like, I always, like, I like working out and I look like I could be the bully in high school, but I really have always enjoyed, like, the nerdy characters. And to me, G.I. Robot always felt like what you said about a biker guy. Like, you assume a thing and then he's got that grumble and he's got that gravel, but then it's like, no, he's the side of peace and everything we need. And I love that inversely, you've got this very verbal character in a very human way, and then you also play a non-verbal, all physical character. I love it in one project. You have your two extremes as a performer. When you switch over mentally to something that is so physically bombastic, is it a different kind of exhausting, or is it like changing hats as a creator?
Fortunately, I don't do it on the same day.
Okay.
So I have generally, I mean, I don't know about never. I think maybe early on there were some days where I did both. But for the most part, when I would do vocal sessions for that show, I'm either doing a Weasel session or I'm doing a GI Robot session. Doing both in the same day can be tricky, but I don't know. It's part of the job. It's like what I do. I'm a soldier. I'm a metaphorical soldier. I'm not like not really putting my life on the line. I'm not saying that like what I do is important in the way that like I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that my mentality as a performer is that my job is to serve the story and serve the script and to do whatever it takes to do that. And so I'm shameless in that regard. So if I'm playing a large semi-anthropomorphic Weasel, or I'm playing a automaton from the 1940s, it's like it doesn't matter. My job is to tell the story, use the toolkit that I've been given in terms of how this character is able to communicate and to go from there.
Reject Nation, like many of you, I grew up in a home where money felt like a constant worry. Financial fear was always in the air, and eventually we did lose our home. So needless to say, I didn't grow up learning how to save or invest. But I did know that I wanted to feel more in control one day. And that's why I'm glad I found Acorns. I have already been using them before we partnered with them, so very privileged right now to be working with them. Acorns is a financial wellness app that helps you invest for your future, save for tomorrow, and spend smarter today, all from your phone. You can literally start by investing just your spare change. Acorns rounds up your purchases and puts the difference into a diversified portfolio managed by experts. But it's not just roundups. You can also set up recurring contributions or deposit any amount of money that you want, whether it's $5, $50, or more. It makes investing feel easy. Like you really don't need to be an expert or understand a whole bunch. You just put the money in, put the spare change in, and then watch it grow over time. It makes building better habits simple. I highly recommend it, especially if you're someone like me who's like, I don't really understand how a lot of investing stuff works. It is so user-friendly and beginner-friendly. You could sign up now and Acorns will boost your account with a $5 bonus investment. Join the over 14 million all-time customers who have already saved and invested over $25 billion with Acorns. You can head to acorns.com/rejects or download the Acorns app to get started. Once again, acorns.com/rejects, link in the description box and pinned comment. And since we are talking about finances, it's important that I do say this. Paid non-client endorsement compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 2 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorn Advisors, LLC, and SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/rejects. Thank you again, Acorns, for making my life better, and hopefully it makes your guys' life better too.
Now, we talked earlier about the clay versus the sculptor, but with how much you dive into these characters, you and I have talked about Weasel before. We've talked about how much that origin meant a lot to you, and I was fascinated by how early that was mapped out for us to be revealed too, but how early you knew it. How far ahead do you like to have those things in mind when you're going to be portraying something as nuanced as a non-verbal character? Is it something where you'd like to have their full arc mapped out so you can add that to your palette, or do you want to be surprised through the journey too?
I don't want to be fully surprised. I need it depends. I need a little bit of time, but for the most part, you work with what you're given, but I would assume, like, for example, with something like Creature Commandos season 2, I would assume that I'll be able to read and absorb scripts, at least within with a few weeks or a month or so to absorb it and think about it and digest it before I go in and start laying anything down.
Because I feel like the two characters, we've talked the most about, but between Weasel and Rocket Raccoon, those are characters whose origins are revealed to us later that I imagine informed so much of the DNA of setting them up in the first place. Like, especially Guardians 2, that felt so informed by where we got in Guardians 3. So is it something that when you're building the character, do you have conversations with writer or writers about the elements you want to play up emotionally and those pieces of the character?
Yeah, with Rocket, I definitely knew I had a substantial breakdown of what Rocket's backstory was and where it was going by the end of the first movie and before we shot the second movie. I knew a lot about I think I actually knew when we were shooting the first movie. I knew that the High Evolutionary was the one who had created Rocket and why he created him and where that was coming from. So I had some kind of, the more information, the better. But sometimes you're not going to have all the information, And with Creature Commandos, same kind of thing. I knew Weasel was innocent when we shot Suicide Squad. James gave me more of a breakdown of his backstory before we ever did Creature Commandos. G.I. Robot was very new to me. All I knew was that James was interested in me playing this character, and then I read the scripts. So it was I read, and that that project was complete. So it was I got all 7 scripts at once.
Wow.
For that character. That show, man, was like magic in a bottle. It was all done. I remember reading, like James had told me the idea before I read it. He was like, I kind of want to do this show, Creature Commandos, about these monsters, and Frankenstein's in it and the bride and all this stuff. And I was kind of like, oh, okay. I mean, I'm not a comic book guy anyway, and B, it's like that sounded like kind of lame.
Sure. I mean, on paper, like, show me
I
why.
was like, cool, I trust you because you like it. So it's not like I'm saying you're going to do something bad. Like, I know you're going to like do something interesting, but it wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to read that. Like I was like,
the elevator pitch isn't like, oh,
whatever, but I wanted to do it and I like the work. And like I said, I trust him. I know he's smart and has good ideas. And then he finished it and sent me, he's like, oh, I'm sending you the scripts for Creature Commandos. And I read it all in one shot. And I remember saying to my wife, like, God, I don't want to be crazy, but I think this is the best thing James has ever written.
Yeah.
I was just like blown away, absolutely blown away by it. And then it just, all the pieces fell into place. He got such amazing casting, the animation is incredible. It's very much it ended up looking on screen exactly the way it was written on the page. There wasn't a lot of messing with it. There wasn't a lot of like, it was just kind of done. And it became this like sort of magic little project. So I love it that I know that it's finding its audience. And I know, again, from having people, talking to people in conventions and stuff, like, people, I don't have a lot of people who have seen it who are uninterested in it. There are only people who haven't seen it. The people who have seen it love it.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, I'll push the hell out of it. I just think it's awesome.
It's so special, especially in the run. He's talked about that year where he wrote that and Peacemaker and Superman, and he just went on this tear. And I, as a comic fan, am so impressed at the spinner rack feeling, because going from Superman to Peacemaker, what a different tone. You've picked up such a different book. But Creature Commandos is maybe the most comic-y thing. Like, it feels so inspired by, like, how does this translate to moving pictures that feels so like this? Was it something that, you said it was magic when it came to you, when you were filming and once the cast came together, were the sessions like, was there a spirit of, oh my God, I can't believe we get to do this? Because I feel like David Harbour as Frankenstein, there's a joie de vivre that translates. And Frank Grillo, I didn't think could voice act that well until he did it. Like, it's so special.
I mean, it felt special again, kind of after it was done and I was able to see it. But it takes a long time to make a project like that. The voice part of it is a lot of sessions over a lot of months, and the animation part is even more. So it's like, I read it and it was magic, but then, a year or more goes by where my only connection is every couple of months going into a booth by myself, and so it doesn't feel as collaborative, but that's the job, right? And some of the actors worked together. So some of the most important scenes, like when Flag and Frankenstein have some of their coolest scenes together, Grillo and Harbour would really be in the booth together and interacting with one another. But I didn't have any of that. Both Weasel and GI are very sort of insular.
Yeah.
And they don't. So I didn't have any scenes where I was there with another actor. So I'm just kind of by myself for a while, trying to do what I can. That's the job. That's why it's hard work, and that's why you stay focused. You reread the script. You make sure you know where you are and what is expected of the character, and try to work it out and put it together. And it's a testament to how excellent the performers are that are all Alan Tudyk and Zoe and Zoe Chow and Indira Varma, who I've never met in real life still.
Wow.
And obviously Harbour and Grillo and Maria Bakalova, who I'd worked with and is brilliant, and like all these like amazing performers, and we're all it's kind of a fun thing to know that we're all on the same page working towards this project to make it as beautiful and fully realized as possible, but not seeing each other for a long time.
Surreal or ever. That's like so special because it feels so cohesive. And I think a lot of that's the writing and a lot of that is that magic. But I also wonder in the collaborative element of you having so much acting experience and you working with so many different writers and directors and you obviously knowing your brother your whole life, how much collaboration comes into play with a character that you've played multiple times like a Kraglin or a Rocket? Do you get to have a conversation about like, this is what I feel instinctively, let's have a dialogue?
Yeah, in general, I'm pretty hands off. I know that my ideas would be heard. Like I know if I said to James, well, one thing I've really learned about Kraglin is blank. He would listen to me and understand it and absorb it, and I'm sure I did that once or twice. But for the most part, I always stay away from actual story ideas, from actually saying like, well, I think he should do this or would act in this certain way. Like it's just not really, that's what writers do. That's kind of not my call to make. And it's not my, it's just kind of not what I do in general.
Fair. And last two questions for you, because I saw the MF Doom shirt before and I had to ask, MF Doom, like, is there a favorite album, a favorite track? Like, I feel like MF Doom doesn't get enough love today as such a forefront of very conscious hip hop.
Yeah. I mean, look, I can tell you that when I heard, how much time do you have?
20 minutes on MF Doom.
I love MF Doom so much. He's my favorite musical artist ever. I remember sitting in front of my computer and listening to Rhymes Like Dimes from Operation Doomsday and being like, I've been waiting my entire life to hear this music.
Yeah.
Madvillainy probably my favorite album, but no, I actually probably like Operation Doomsday even more than Madvillainy. And in some ways, the first Victor Vaughn album is what was more of a doorway into Doom's music than anything else. But I love all of it. I love King Ghidorah. I love Doom in all his incarnations. And I could probably, if I had to only listen to one artist for the rest of my life, I wouldn't have to hesitate for more than 5 seconds before I would have an answer.
I love knowing the conviction because like MF Doom, I find is someone, it's actually kind of like G.I. Robot. When if I see an MF Doom person, I'm like, I know we at least have a lot in common. Like,
you're exactly right. And this is one of like, seriously, I have at least probably 12 or 15 MF Doom t-shirts. And it's exactly that. It's another thing that when people point it out, when people are like, "Hey man, cool shirt," I'm like, "That guy's cool."
Yeah, there's like an automatic,
like, she's cool. And I also it makes me feel like it makes me feel not as old that I get a lot of 20-year-olds who are like,
yes.
"Hey, cool t-shirt." I'm like, "Hey, the kids they know what's up."
I find MF Doom and Wu-Tang have found Gen Z in such a unique way, and I never thought I'd see as many Wu-Tang shirts or MF Doom shirts come back, because it doesn't feel like the Nirvana Rolling Stones thing where it's like a hot topic, like I wear this for the symbolism. They tend to know what it is they're representing, and I love that for him. I feel like MF Doom would appreciate that he's caused this culture shift back in the right direction.
Yeah.
And lastly, Gilmore Girls, man. I am always fascinated by the Gilmore Girls army, and I feel like the audience would be upset with me if I didn't bring up any questions about this very iconic show. We live in this very interesting age of holding on to pieces of art that make us feel comfortable. And for me, that's comic books and in some ways Friends, and in some ways shows that feel like a blanket. And Gilmore Girls, I know, is like Amy Sherman Palladino's like that locked in a lot of people to a type of dialogue. When you talk to Gilmore Girls fans that are new to this tribe, do you find that there's a different like relationship to the material than the ones that have been with it from the beginning? Because I've noticed a surge in the last 7 years. Or is it like, oh, you're my tribe, you're my people?
Well, there's the thing that's the same amongst all Gilmore Girls fans is, I think, a sense of, first of all, the show itself being comforting, which I have my own sort of theories about why. But it definitely also bridges these generational gaps between women. And I think that a lot or among women, I should say, because I don't think that there are. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this, but maybe there aren't enough shows that do that.
Sure.
But I get so many people who talk to me about the show where, and I mean, I don't mean just hundreds. I mean thousands and thousands of people who tell me that their connection to the show is that they enjoyed it with their mother or their mother's mother, and now they enjoy it with their daughter or their daughter's daughter, and it spans this generation of people in a really cool way. It blows my mind that I'll still have 7, 8, 9-year-old girls come up to me and Gilmore Girls is their favorite show. Like, it is not ever anything I would have imagined or understood. It's only with age that you can appreciate something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm incredibly grateful for it. I think that there have been moments in my life or in my career where I was like, I wouldn't say embarrassed by it, but it's like you want to move past your previous work and go towards your next work. So it's like, okay, yeah, I was Kirk on Gilmore Girls, but what a goofy character. I want to now do this next thing, and I want to be known. I want to be known for the next project that I do, not the last project that I do. And I really am grateful for the fact that I was able to be a part of something so cool and so interesting, and have it live, have it still breathe in 2025, something we were doing in 2001 and 2 and 2003. Wow. That like it's still alive, and it's alive in a way that a lot of other fandoms I think aren't as much. And I won't, not to name anything by name, but there's a lot of things that like you get people who are loyal to them forever, but they age with the show. So it's like the show's getting older, and so the fans are getting older. Gilmore Girls fans are staying young, which I don't even know how to process that, but I'm grateful for it, and I hope people love it forever. I think that Amy Sherman Palladino and her right-hand man, Dan, are absolute geniuses. I think they created something just absolutely gorgeous, and I'm in their debt. I'm grateful to be a part of it.
I do feel like it's one of those shows that is more MF Doom Wu-Tang as far as the iconography than another t-shirt. People know what it's about to this day, and it ages gracefully with them.
I think that's the first MF Doom Gilmore Girls analogy that I've heard in my years in the industry, and I'm here for it.
Yes, I put those words together for the first time in that order, bringing together. And also when Rachel Brosnahan got cast, that was my first thought. I went right to Marvelous Miss Maisel, then connected it to Gilmore Girls, and that was my thought for Lois Lane, was how perfect she was going to be, because she nails that pentameter.
I knew she was up for the role, and I actually I don't know if this info is out there, but I emailed Amy. I asked James. I'm like, hey, James does recon on every actor, because he wants to make sure that they're cool. And I emailed Amy. I was like, hey, you worked with Rachel forever, and she's up for this thing with my brother. And do you have anything that you would say about her? Is there any any red flags? Anything you would say? And it was the most glowing, it was the most positive review anybody. Amy wrote me back, and she's like, she is the greatest actor that you would ever want to work with, open and giving and smart and driven and caring and cool and nice and everything. She said all of the most glowing things about Rachel that you could ever say, and so I passed that along. I don't know if it made a lick of difference. I think at the end of the day, really, I think her audition gets her the role no matter what. But I like that there's that loyalty, and that Amy was so kind about what she said about Rachel.
And I do think it's a testament to all the casts that he doesn't tolerate assholes. Like it's the thing about your brother is like he doesn't want to work with people for 10 years that suck.
It's smart. It's why. It's like you see actors talk in interviews and they're like, "Oh yeah, James's sets are amazing and he creates such this warm environment." And I can imagine being an outsider and hearing this and be like, okay, everybody's drinking this Kool-Aid.
Yeah, talking point.
Same thing. And it's like, no. It's really true, and it's true because of that. Like he really does do background work on who these people are and understanding that like we're trying to make something really excellent together as a team. And so you have to be a team player. You can't be somebody you like egos aren't helpful, and I think it shows in the work.
I've been doing this more than 10 years, and that Superman cast was the most I've ever spent with a full cast, and every interaction was great. And I always love talking to you, man, whether it's cons or panels or now finally Maxwell Lord, but always a pleasure. And I'm very excited for the experience of seeing those levels of Maxwell Lord play out. And I always love your work, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you.